Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Joanna Steele from Dymax, and I am a digital marketing consultant. Welcome to Tech Canvas SpeakZone. This evening, I'm very excited because we have a fantastic guest from all the way from Ivory Coast. Her name is Fatim Cisse, and I'm just going to sort of spend a bit of time talking to Fatim this evening around artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, and what's going on in that space across the continent. Fatim is an expert in that field, and you can look forward to hearing some fantastic knowledge and insight in what's going on the continent in those areas. So Fatim, I want this to be a really kind of, fluid conversation. I'm excited to learn so much from you, and I'm sure the viewers are too. It'd be great if you could start off just by telling us a bit about yourself, just introducing yourself to us, your journey, and sort of how you've got to being what they call the bionic woman.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about a topic that I'm passionate about. It's artificial intelligence and robotics in Africa. I started my career very, I would say, normally. I studied in economics, then started working in multinational companies as part of the management team. And then I was in charge of a few innovation programs. That gave me the curiosity to understand a little more what the world was going to turn into in the next few years. And that led me to learn about artificial intelligence. At first, I didn't know exactly what it was. So I decided to broaden my knowledge on the topic. So I decided to go and take courses on artificial intelligence. And when I went to school to learn artificial intelligence, I actually noticed the impact that this revolution will have on the world and especially on the continent. And I decided to be the leader and to be the first person to actually put this topic on the table here in our countries and see how we can prepare for that fourth industrial revolution. So that led me to create the company that I'm leading now, JIX, which is really in charge of accompanying, being a support to organizations and people who want to learn more about the fourth industrial revolution, and also to companies who want to solve their problems through new technologies and artificial intelligence. So that's a bit about my where I'm coming from.
Brilliant. And I think what's sort of the learning from that is the evolution. Like you said, you started in economics and you kind of evolved. You were interested in innovation, interested in AI, and actually not knowing much about it, you delved into it and learned and became, an expert. So I think that's very sort of key to share, that we don't know everything from the beginning, and actually it's a journey and we can learn, and whatever we're interested in, we should pursue and get to know more about. Fantastic. So for anyone who might be unsure about what artificial intelligence is, how could you explain it in a really sort of simple way for people to really understand?
Okay, so very simply, artificial intelligence is the new capability that informatic and software have now to do some things that were not possible to machines, and that was only possible to humans. It goes from face recognition, language recognition. The machines are now able to solve problems by themselves, and that was only possible to humans before artificial intelligence. So it's a big, I would say, a big discipline. And robotics, for example, is based on artificial intelligence. It's one of the parts of the many sectors and the many fields that were born thanks to the new capabilities that machines have to solve problems by themselves and to recognize, I would say, objects and patterns, etc. So it's very simply, the machines are now able to do things that were previously only capable to humans.
Okay, brilliant. And I suppose, what do you, in terms of AI, and obviously you've worked sort of in sort of Canada, you've had experience in the US and sort of Western Central Africa as well. Kind of how are different countries sort of leveraging and using AI, and that you feel can the continent can sort of learn from, or how is the continent using AI in a different way to other parts of the world?
Yes, we do not really have means to create artificial intelligence in Africa as of now. So I was privileged enough to see what other Western and European countries are doing in the field. And they have something that we don't have, which is the data. They're able to generate a lot of data and to be able to really have very powerful softwares and applications that are using this data to think by themselves and to anticipate what the reactions would be, and really, like I said, build artificial intelligence. In Africa, as of now, we cannot really create artificial intelligence due to that lack of data that we are trying to solve in certain countries. In Northern Africa, a lot of initiatives are being done. In Sub-Saharan Africa, it's very new, but we can see that there is progress being made. The different states are starting to understand the need and the benefits they could get from artificial intelligence. So they have created certain organizations that have to reflect on how they can include artificial intelligence to their strategies, but it's still new, and our continent is behind on that topic, unfortunately.
And sort of, improving access to healthcare, for example, is definitely an area that kind of needs focus on the continent. And we know that AI can help with triaging, diagnosis, post-care follow-up, for example. You mentioned that perhaps in the continent we're not able to use the sort of and see the benefits of AI because of the lack of data. But what other industries apart from healthcare do you think can benefit or are currently benefiting from AI or robotics, and how?
Yes, so my point of view is that if we cannot create, we can at least use the capabilities of those new technologies into improving our current processes. So when you ask about the fields that can benefit, all of the fields, from agriculture to industry, I think we can really benefit from including those new technologies to our processes to improve our productivity, improve the quality of our products. In agriculture, for example, we have a lot of countries where we still have, we cannot produce enough for our own needs. So using those kind of robotization in agriculture, in studying the soil, studying better understanding the behavior of the plants, and improving our productivity in agriculture, I think can really make a difference in our continent. So if we cannot yet, I think, produce our own robots, at least the use of the existing ones, I'm convinced, can improve our day-to-day life. I was mentioning agriculture, industry also. We now have a lot of competitions coming from outside of Africa. Now with the world being open the way it is, we are not only producing for Africans, but we also have to compete against all those products coming from abroad. So we really need to improve our productivity, have better prices and better quality for our products. So I really think that in all fields, we really should benefit from including artificial intelligence and new technology.
Brilliant. So I heard, I think it was earlier this week actually, that in Nigeria, an airport in Nigeria, beginning to use robots. I think it's, amidst the COVID-19 and being able to test temperatures, etc. So do you think that a robotics industry can emerge within the next 5 years across the continent or in various countries in the continent?
Yes, I am an optimistic. So I think that provided we understand the benefits of investing in those kind of new technologies, we can really make a difference. Because, like I was mentioning, even though we don't currently have data to actually produce artificial intelligence, we have the competence here in the continent. And my experience has shown me that when young Africans are being taught properly, they become the best. They learn fast, and they are also able to come up with very interesting solutions to African problems. So maybe we should not try to copy what is being done in the other countries, but see how we can use those new technologies to answer our own problems in the continent. So I think if we use that approach to really see how we can do little steps into improving our needs and into improving our economies here, I think we can really use and benefit from this fourth industrial revolution. So my point of view is not to copy and try to really do exactly the same things that the other countries are doing, but we have our own problems. We have also our own opportunities here that we should really leverage on and into solving our own issues.
Brilliant. Totally agree with that. And I suppose, so you mentioned one of the problems is around a lack of data. Now, is that something that is integral? We need it as part of advancing in AI. And what can we do to overcome that barrier? You know, what things can be done? Is it a case of just focusing on collecting that data? Or are we already on the back foot? Are we already behind because we don't have that data? Kind of help me understand how that is a challenge and how we can overcome that lack of data.
I think we can overcome the lack of data very quickly, provided we include certain, let's say, certain capacities in our cities, for example. There is a lack of infrastructure, for example, but I think if we really understand the behavior of our own population, where are those people going? Why are the roads packed? When are the times where the streets are the more busy, etc.? And we can understand and solve those problems through, for example, new technologies, delivery companies, etc. I think we can really overcome that lack of data very quickly. It's just about understanding the importance of going to the root of the problems and investing in a little bit of data collection software companies and try to really not only be a producer of data for the big companies that are abroad, but also try to make find a way to also make that data available to our local companies who want to really understand and develop some software to solve our own problems. It can go through signing agreements with those companies from abroad that are currently collecting a lot of data in Africa, just to make sure that we can also benefit from this data. It can also be, like I said, investing in some data collection tools in the cities, trying to understand the behavior of our citizens. But it needs to go back to really, like I said, understanding the need for our countries to really have visibility on who does what and why, so we can really try to solve, understand the problems to the root and find ways to solve them.
Brilliant. One of the things you mentioned actually was a lack of infrastructure. It could be said there's also a lack of investment and perhaps a skills gap when it comes to the continent advancing in technology. Are you able to sort of tell us how countries are, and perhaps the Ivory Coast specifically and other countries, are overcoming those barriers, and what else can be done?
Yes, like I said, the previous approach was whenever there was a lack of something, we were trying to build more. But what I've been promoting is trying, instead of always going for more, trying to be smarter about things. Let's say instead of building more, more roads, it's making those services that people are moving to get available from their homes could actually have an impact on the quantity of roads that we need, for example. So we are currently, like I was saying, on the strategic level, trying to understand how we can bridge the infrastructure gap by being smarter about the way we approach the cities and the way we approach the need of the citizen. So I think that we understand now that we cannot really always run the way we're doing by adding more. But if we can be smarter with the resources that we have, we believe that we can really improve our day-to-day life without having to make that much investment. But yes, we still have to do a lot of effort in, let's say, internet connectivity. Internet in the continent is still not as popular as it should be. It's still very expensive to the average citizen. Those are problems that needs to be solved, and we are now starting to understand and ask ourselves the question of whether it's something that we should leave in the hands of those foreign companies, or we should take into our own hands, because we understand that internet becomes an utility, such as water and electricity. So maybe we should think differently about the internet. Should it be something that the government owns and makes available to all the citizens for lower price, etc.? So the reflection is now being made to see how we can really leverage from these new possibilities that are coming with the fourth industrial revolution. But so far, I would, to be honest, we're still at the strategic level, trying to understand. And I'm confident that in the next years, we can really actually act on that strategy that we are building now.
Mm-hmm. And that's really interesting when you said, countries considering building in the internet as a service like your electricity or your water. In the UK, the opposition party, Labour in the UK, were proposing as one of their policies was to have internet for everyone in the UK. And I think a lot of people were a bit taken aback by that as a concept, but it's interesting to see that that's actually an approach that could be considered for the continent. Brilliant. So do you think then Africa stands a chance in this sort of new digital sort of era? I mean, I always sort of say, with you thinking about internet penetration, that's increasing year on year. If you're looking at sort of mobile adoption, the continent was very much sort of ahead, more so than the rest of the world, mobile payments, etc. So there have been instances where sort of the continent has kind of jumped ahead. And like you said, really thinking about the problems on a local level and creating the solutions for those problems rather than looking externally and looking at what the world is doing. So with that in mind, do you think the continent sort of stands a chance in this sort of new digital era, the fourth revolution?
Yes, that example that you gave is actually very powerful. I remember that when telecommunications first made the entry in Cote d'Ivoire, because I would talk about what I was part of, very few people were actually willing to invest in telecommunications, because what they were hearing is that it's not going to work because Africans cannot read, so they will never be able to use cell phones, and that people should really follow the tracks of the developed countries and start first by the older phones and then follow the steps. And the story has shown that we were able to really leapfrog and go ahead, be ahead of the curve in telecommunications. So I think we can do the same with new technologies, provided, like I said, we do not try to copy what is being made outside, but we find our own definition of how we want to solve our needs and how we want to use those new tools the way we need it in a very, I would say, African way, cost-efficient way, and that really answers the problems that we are encountering here in Africa. So I'm very convinced that we can do the same thing, the same steps as telecommunications, but we need to communicate to make people understand that new technologies are not the enemy. And on the contrary, they can also benefit from that. And we need to understand that the world is changing. We are not going to be able to do the things the way we were doing them before, because like I was saying, we have the competition from outside, from China, where they're able to achieve a lot of, I would say, productivity increases by using the new robots, and the world is changing. So we really need to understand and see how we can leverage from those new technologies.
Brilliant. And you said something quite interesting there around, the resistance that there is around technology, and it's not the enemy. I know that by 2030, young Africans are expected to make up 42% of the world's youth, which is a massive number. And so with a huge population coming into the workforce, what do you say to people who consider, AI, robotics as potentially doing more harm than good? How can we ensure that there's a human in the loop approach when we're sort of considering these new technologies?
I think we need to be part of the discussion, and that's what I'm fighting for now, because the more people understand those technologies, the better they can also influence the way they are being implemented in their countries. But if you don't understand, you're not going to be able to really understand what the impact would be on your day-to-day life. So even if you're not in technology, it's important to understand where the world is going and try to raise a voice, and also be able to be the voice of proposition to our states on how they want to manage those programs. I understand that there can be a very bad side. We have seen countries that have used those technologies to actually restrict the freedom of the citizens. But if we want to avoid this from happening here in Africa, I think we really need to be very conscious about all those potential wrong effects that those technologies can have on citizens. And the citizens ourselves, we need to be able to talk about and try to, let's say, to lead the decisions regarding new technologies in the way in achieving the society that we want to live in. So to me, it goes from really communication, understanding of the situation, and also raising a voice to be a force of proposition whenever decisions are being made that impact citizens here in Africa.
Brilliant. And sort of, what from your sort of standpoint would you say are the strengths and the weaknesses that the continent has in terms of advanced technologies? Where do you think Africa's doing well and is succeeding, and where else are they not potentially?
Like I was saying, experience has shown me that young Africans are very resourceful. Mm-hmm. So whenever they're giving the right tools and the right motivation, and they are being led in the right way, I can see that they even become better than the other ones. So we have that. We have youth, we have innovation, we have very vibrant young people here that are willing to really make an impact in the world. So I think that's something that we cannot that we can use in order to take an advantage on that world. But the weaknesses, I would say, is really the mentality that needs to be shifted. We cannot resist that fourth revolution. It will be imposed to us. So instead of being passive and waiting to see what will come, I prefer for us to really take the lead and take to be very active in that revolution, into making sure that Africa is not forgiven and Africa is not colonized once again by those new technologies. So we really need to change the mindset and be more active than passive in that.
Yeah, and I think probably the pandemic has perhaps sort of, really made people who were perhaps not as convinced are probably a lot more convinced now of what needs to happen across the continent. Brilliant. So Fatim, so just a couple of questions. So one is, you've got the name The Bionic Woman. It'd be great if you could tell us sort of where that came from and just give us a bit of an insider on how you came to be the Bionic Woman.
Yeah, it's simply because I was one of the first person in Africa, and especially in Cote d'Ivoire, to talk about those topics, about robotics, about artificial intelligence, about how it was going to impact our lives in Cote d'Ivoire. So I was asked by a newspaper there, a local newspaper, to do the headline. And they really wanted to portray me as the Bionic Woman, to show that, okay, I'm a woman who really has taken the lead on that topic and who really wants to include robotics into our day-to-day life. So that's where it came from.
Brilliant. And, just obviously Tech Campus is all about how we can inspire and inform the youth of Africa to be involved in technology and understand more about tech. Are there any kind of words of advice or just any thoughts that you can offer to young people who are interested in tech, who are interested in working in tech, who might not know where to start, whether it's AI, whether it's telecoms, whether it's coding? Like what kind of advice would you give?
They have to be curious, because it's a world that changes from one day to another. So you cannot be interested in new technologies and not be curious and not be aware of what is going on in the world, because the competence that you may have now can be completely obsolete in the next 6 months. So it's a world that changes fast. So for me, it's about also try to have, aside from the technical capabilities, to also have a lot of cognitive and very wide, to try to really work on for example, their capacity to solve problems in, let's say, the critical thinking, etc. Because I think that's really where they're going to be able to make a difference. Instead of only working on the technical abilities, they should also be able to really do some very broad critical thinking, problem solving. So they should not neglect the soft skills and go only for the hard skills. So they should work on both. So I think that's the only thing that going to make them employable, even if those technical abilities become obsolete.
Brilliant. And finally, final question for me, it's around ducks. I know you pronounce it ducks, but my English accent says ducks. Tell me a bit more about the company, sort of how you formed it, when you formed it, why, and sort of what does ducks mean? Sort of give us a bit of an insight on what you guys do there.
Okay, so Dux means leader in Latin. It was created the end of 2015. The aim when I first started was to really solve and sell some applications here. It was created with one of my teachers in the US, who was willing to come into sub-Saharan Africa to promote his products. So he was looking for a partner. So that's when we talked about creating a company that was going to be able to promote his software and applications in sub-Saharan Africa. So I then realized that before being able to actually sell those products, I needed to raise the awareness of the people on what artificial intelligence was. So I started to do some training let's say, to leaders and to companies to understand how artificial intelligence were going to impact their industry. And then now we also invested in training some young Africans also to be able to produce our own applications. So for 2 years now, all the projects that are being sold by Jigsaw are produced locally in Cote d'Ivoire. So it has been a long journey, but we are getting there.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm not sure we've had any additional questions. Are there any other questions? I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, there is. Technology. So, Sinforosa, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, from Equatorial Guinea, has asked, don't you think that AI and robotics could be a threat for traditional human relationships?
Like I said, depending on how it's being used, it's like any kind of technology that happens. It's based on the use that is being made. Electricity can be used for good as well as it can be used to harm people. So I think I will not deny that those are very powerful applications that can also be used if in the hands of the wrong people, can also harm, like she was saying, human relationships. Mm-hmm. But I think the more we understand it, the more we prepare for it, and the more we can ask for regulation around it. So I think those bad sides can be countered by really working on the regulation and working on the understanding and making sure that it's not going to the hands of people with wrong motivations.
Brilliant. Another question has come through, and we might have already touched on it, but I'll ask it. What do you think are the requirements for Africa to get ready for AI and the robotic revolution?
I think we are going to really need to train our young people. Like I was saying, not only on the technical side, but we really need to have a workforce that is not only doing manual labor like it is now, because manual labor is going to be ultimately replaced by the robots, because they can do things cheaper, faster, and better than humans. Let's be honest about that. So if we are not going to be able to only have manual labor here, we need to also train our youth so that they can find their own place in that new world, doing things that only humans can do, which is think, solve problems, which is create solutions to our problems. So I really think that the first step would be investing in training.
And do you think the continent is investing in enough training at the moment? Can you think of examples where some countries, maybe Ivory Coast, might be doing quite well at that, or?
It's not enough. There are some initiatives here and there, but it's not enough. I think our, let's say, our schooling system needs to be completely changed to accommodate the new world. We cannot still train people like we used to, because, like I said, a lot of jobs are going to disappear. So we cannot train people the way we used to train them. We need to really modernize our training, and that is not being done for now. But there are some initiatives here and there in Cote d'Ivoire, in all of Sub-Saharan Africa, but I think it's not enough. We should continue our efforts in that field.
Brilliant. I've got another question that's come through. Would you recommend any schools or any internet resources in order to learn more about these topics, so AI and robotics? Where can people sort of go to find out a bit more?
There are a lot of resources online. For example, there was the government of Finland that offered a very good artificial intelligence training for 5 weeks, I think. So there are some countries that are now making trainings on artificial intelligence free for the citizens. It's the same in certain states of the US, of Canada. So I think there are a lot of resources available on the internet. There are also some universities. There was one, I think, in Dakar that opened that is really specialized in training in AI. So we can. There are a lot of new opportunities here in Africa, on the continent, for training for artificial intelligence.
Brilliant. And then we've got one last question. It's been fantastic talking to you this evening. Last question. I think someone's trying to get you to predict the future here. So since African countries are facing many challenges, when do you think AI and robotics will be a reality in Africa?
I think it already is a reality. We are on the. There are some good steps that are being made. You were mentioning the robots in Nigeria. In Congo, you have some robots managing the circulation. There are a lot of initiatives that are being done in Cote d'Ivoire as well to fight the desertification of the forest. They are now using drones to plant trees. So there are a lot of, it's already a reality, but it's not as big as it should be. But I'm convinced that in a few years we will see a lot more of those initiatives in the continent.
Brilliant. So I think that's it. Once again, wanted to thank you, Fatim Cisse. It's been fantastic learning so much from you and getting an understanding of what's going on with AI and robotics, not just in the Ivory Coast, but across the continent. So I'd like to thank everybody for watching this evening, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.